buried my wife just 1 week ago, but every night at exactly 2:17 a.m. she comes back, not alive, but something else. It starts with soft knocks on my front door, then chilling messages from her dead phone number. What's terrifying is that the camera caught her standing right there, pale, broken, and smiling in a way no living person could. This isn't just grief. This is a nightmare I can't wake up from. And tonight, she's knocking again. I buried my wife last week. There's no sentence in the world that feels as heavy, as final as that one. It hangs in the air like smoke that doesn't fade, like a bruise that keeps darkening. Lena and I had been married for 12 years. We met in college. She was studying art. I was halfway through an engineering degree I didn't care about. She had this laugh, this reckless joy about her, like the world hadn't touched her yet. When she walked into a room, people noticed, but not because she demanded it. It was just her presence, warm, vibrant, real, and now, in a matter of seconds, all of that was gone. They said it was a car accident, fast, clean. She didn't suffer, they said, as if that made it better, as if that could do anything to help me make sense of the mess she left behind. One moment we were texting about what to get for dinner, and the next, a stranger in a uniform was standing on my porch with a folded look on his face, telling me my wife was never coming home again. I didn't cry at first, not even when I identified her belongings at the hospital, not even when I saw the wreckage of the car. I just nodded, answered questions, signed papers. I remember thinking about how polite everyone was, how quiet they kept their voices, like I was some wounded animal and any sudden movement might finish me off. The funeral was surreal. People brought flowers, said things like, "She was so full of life," or, "If there's anything I can do," but their voices sounded underwater. I couldn't respond properly. I don't think I even looked most of them in the eye. My hands trembled every time someone touched me. It felt wrong. Everything did. I wore the black suit she picked out for me last year for someone else's wedding. She had joked that I looked like a villain in it. Now I wore it to bury her. The coffin was closed. They said it was better that way. I hated that. I wanted to see her one last time, even if she was broken, even if it haunted me. But they advised against it. Her parents were quiet. They barely looked at me. I could tell they blamed me, though no one said it out loud. I blamed me too. That morning we'd argued over something small, something stupid. I can't even remember what it was now, but I remember slamming the door, walking away. That was the last thing she saw of me. And now she was gone. Every room in the house felt wrong without her. Her mug still sat on the counter. Her slippers were under the bed. Her perfume lingered in the hallway. At night, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, reaching for the warmth that wasn't there. I stopped answering calls. I couldn't explain anything to anyone. How do you tell someone that your whole world stopped but everything else just kept moving? I didn't eat much. I barely slept. I kept opening her closet and touching her clothes. I tried playing her favorite songs but turned them off halfway through. I couldn't bear it. I walked around the house like a ghost, as if she'd come back if I stayed still enough, if I waited long enough. Every creak in the floor made my heart jump. Every distant sound made me hope. Even though I knew better, I was unraveling, piece by piece. But I didn't know then that the worst hadn't even started yet. It was the 4th night after the funeral when I first heard it. I hadn't been sleeping. Honestly, I didn't even try anymore. My nights were long stretches of silence in dark corners, filled with the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the wooden floorboards. The house had never felt so big, so empty, and so cold. I was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket Lena had knitted herself, just staring at nothing. The television was off. The lights were dim. I hadn't turned them up in days. Brightness felt intrusive, almost disrespectful. Grief prefers the dark. Then it came. A knock. Not loud, not urgent. Just soft. 3 slow, deliberate taps. Like Someone who didn't want to wake a sleeping child, or someone unsure if they were welcome. I froze. I thought maybe I imagined it. Lack of sleep does strange things to the mind. You start hearing things, seeing things. But then it came again. 3 more knocks, just as gentle, just as deliberate. And this time, there was no mistaking it. Someone was at the door. I glanced at the clock. It read 2:17 a.m. The digital numbers glowed faintly in the dark, the colon blinking steadily like a quiet heartbeat. I waited, listening, my own pulse thudding loudly in my ears. No other sounds followed. No footsteps on the porch, no car in the driveway, just silence. Slowly, I stood up and crept toward the door. Every floorboard groaned under my weight, but I moved as quietly as I could. I didn't turn on the porch light. I just leaned forward and looked through the peephole. There was nothing there. Just the porch, bathed in moonlight, and the still street beyond. I opened the door a crack just enough to peer out, and the cold air hit my face like a warning. Empty. Quiet. Absolutely nothing out of place. I stepped outside and looked around. My yard was still. The trees barely moved. No breeze. No sound. The houses across the street were dark. All windows shut, all doors closed. I stood there for a full minute, maybe more, just listening, hoping, dreading. Then I stepped back inside and closed the door. I locked it. Then I checked it twice. I sat back on the couch, more confused than frightened. Maybe it was a neighbor, I thought. Maybe someone got the wrong house, maybe some teenager playing a prank, but the knocking didn't feel like a prank. It felt careful, almost familiar. The next day, I told myself not to think too much about it. I kept trying to rationalize everything, telling myself I was tired, grieving, and imagining patterns where there were none. I stayed busy during the day, cleaned up a little, tried to eat something. I even stepped outside for a while just to get some air. I didn't want to believe that a quiet knock in the middle of the night meant anything at all. But that night, I stayed up again. Something inside me wouldn't rest. My eyes kept drifting to the clock as it crept past midnight, then 1 a.m., then closer to the time, and at exactly 2:17 a.m., 3 soft knocks echoed through the house. The knocks came again the next night. Same time, same pattern. 3 soft, slow taps, like a question someone was too afraid to ask. I had started watching the clock without meaning to. My eyes would drift toward it as the hours passed. Midnight felt like a warning bell, and by the time the digits read 2:17 a.m., my chest tightened and my breath slowed. I didn't move when I heard them. I just sat in the chair across from the door waiting. My heart thudded in my ears, but I didn't dare stand up. I didn't want to see who or what was on the other side. My body felt heavy, like something was holding me down, and all I could do was listen. 3 knocks. Silence. Then nothing. This time, I didn't go to the door. I didn't want to look outside and see nothing. That emptiness had started to feel worse than any potential intruder. At least if someone was there, I'd have something solid to grasp onto. A face, a form, something real. But the nothingness that followed the knock, it lingered. It made me question everything. Made me wonder if I was hearing anything at all. The next day, I tried to distract myself. I told myself it had to be some neighborhood kid messing around, maybe a stray animal brushing up against the door, but the timing was too precise. Always. Torsvenin, not a minute earlier, not a minute later. I checked the doorbell camera, but there was nothing saved. No motion alerts, no clips, just hours of stillness, like the camera had missed it or ignored it completely. I rebooted it, checked the settings. Everything seemed fine, but when the night came again, so did the knocking. I tried something different that night. I turned off all the lights and sat in the dark, right next to the door. I wanted to hear it up close. I wanted to prove to myself that it wasn't in my head, that what I was hearing was real. I didn't check the clock this time. I just waited, breathing slowly, feeling the cool air press against my skin through the cracks in the Window, then it came, 3 knocks. Softer than before, but clearer. And this time I noticed something new. After the last knock, I thought I heard breathing. Very faint. Just beyond the door. It only lasted a few seconds, but it was there. Like someone was standing close, leaning forward, waiting, listening. I didn't dare open it. My hand hovered over the knob, trembling. I wanted to fling the door open, confront whoever or whatever was tormenting me. But something held me back. An overwhelming primal instinct told me not to open that door. Not yet. Not like this. The knocking stopped. I sat there for a long time. After that, staring at the door in the dark, every muscle in my body tensed. When morning finally came, I dragged myself to the front yard, checking for footprints, for signs of life. Anything to prove that someone had really been there. But there was nothing. No prints on the porch. No scuff marks. No signs of movement. Like no one had come at all. That was when it truly started to get into my head. The repetition, the silence, the precision. It didn't feel random anymore. It didn't feel human. Something about the knock felt patient, even polite, like it wasn't trying to break in, just waiting for me to open the door on my own. By the 4th night, I stopped trying to sleep altogether. I sat on the couch every night, lights off, phone in hand, heart pounding louder with each passing minute. And when the clock turned 2:17, the knocks always came. 3 taps, never more, never less. Always the same rhythm, like a melody burned into the walls. The part that scared me the most wasn't the sound itself. It was how quickly I had come to expect it. How the silence before 2:17 felt unbearable. Like the knocking was no longer the intrusion, but the absence of it would be. By the 5th night, I couldn't take the guessing anymore. I needed proof. Something more than sound, more than feelings and fear. I charged the old security camera that had been gathering dust in the closet, positioned it squarely above the front door, and made sure it was recording. I even connected it to my phone so I could watch live. I told myself that I just wanted to be sure, that maybe if I saw nothing again, I could finally convince myself I was just losing it. But some part of me already knew. I wasn't imagining this. That night, I didn't sit by the door. I sat on the couch with the phone in my hand, eyes fixed on the live feed. I didn't blink much. I barely moved. The camera angle showed everything. The front steps, the walkway, a sliver of the street. It was all quiet, bathed in the pale blue of the motion-activated porch light. I watched the time creep forward. 15 a.m. 2:16. I leaned in. The seconds ticked slowly, each one louder in my head than the last. The feed was perfectly still. No movement. Not even a flicker. Just that washed-out image of my front porch completely undisturbed. Then, at exactly 2:17 a.m., she appeared. She stepped into frame from the left side, as if she'd been standing just out of view, waiting. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My entire body locked up. It was Lena, or something that looked like her. She was wearing the same white nightgown she had fallen asleep in the night before the accident. Her hair hung in long, wet clumps. Mud streaked the hem of her gown. Her bare feet left no prints on the cement, but I could see the dirt clinging to her ankles, dark and wet like she had clawed her way out of something deep and terrible. She stood there, unmoving, staring at the door, not ringing the bell, not pounding, just standing, perfectly still. Her face was pale, too pale, with shadows under her eyes that looked bruised and hollow. And then, she smiled. It wasn't the smile I remembered. It didn't reach her eyes. It was stiff, unnatural, like someone who had seen people smile once and was trying to imitate it. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a dull thud, but I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. I scrambled to pick it back up, heart racing, hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped it again. But when I got the camera feed back, she was gone. No trace. Just the empty porch, exactly like before. I rewound the footage. I watched it 3 times, 4 or 5, frame by frame. She was there, and then she wasn't. No walking away, no fading. One moment she was in the frame, and the next, the camera glitched, and she was gone. The timestamp confirmed it all, 2:17 m, just like every night before. I downloaded the footage, but when I played it again, all I saw was static. Every time I tried to open the file, the screen flickered and turned white. I tried different devices, same result. I even uploaded it to a cloud account thinking maybe it was just my phone. But the file wouldn't play anywhere, like it had never existed. That was when I started to feel the shift. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was something else. A creeping, heavy awareness that what was happening didn't follow the rules of the world I knew. This wasn't a prank, and it wasn't a nightmare. Something had come to my door, and it looked like the woman I had buried days ago. The next day, I tried everything I could to convince myself it wasn't real. I told myself maybe it was a dream, a hallucination born of too many sleepless nights and too much grief. But that calm, rational voice inside me was getting quieter with each passing hour. Something had changed in the air around the house. It felt heavier. I kept catching faint scents of soil and wet fabric, even though everything was clean. The living room where I'd left the blanket she used to love now smelled faintly like the cemetery. I tried not to look at my phone. I didn't want to see that feed again. But I couldn't help myself. I kept opening the app, hoping maybe it had all been a glitch. The video was still there, still corrupted. Just white noise and static. As if whatever had come to my door didn't want to be recorded. As if it knew. That night I sat in the dark again, hands curled tight around the edge of the couch cushion, every muscle tensed. I didn't even need to look at the time anymore. I could feel it coming. My body had started to recognize it, like it was tied to that minute somehow. When the clock hit 2:17 a.m., I didn't look toward the door. I just waited, and this time I heard something new. It wasn't just the knock. My phone buzzed. At first I ignored it. I assumed it was another late-night spam text or a delayed notification, but something about the sound made my blood run cold. I picked up the phone slowly, hesitating before I turned the screen toward me. The message was from Lena's number. Just her name, sitting there on the screen like it always used to, as if nothing had changed, as if she wasn't 6 feet underground in a cemetery an hour away. My hands trembled as I tapped the message open. It read, "Let me in." 3 words. No punctuation, no emojis, just plain text. I stared at it for a long time, my mouth dry, my heart pounding in my chest. I checked the number again. It was hers. I hadn't deleted it. I couldn't bring myself to. I used to scroll through our old texts at night just to feel like she was still with me. But those messages had stopped the night she died. Until now. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My fingers hovered over the screen, but I had no idea what to say. What could I possibly type in reply to a message from a dead woman? My instincts screamed at me to throw the phone across the room, to run, to do anything but sit there. But I stayed frozen in place. Then the knocks came again. 3 of them. Slower this time. Heavier. Not gentle anymore. Like whoever, or whatever, was on the other side of the door was starting to lose patience. I couldn't breathe. The message still glowed on the screen. "Let me in." I typed out a shaky message. Just 1 word. "Who?" No response. I waited, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. A full minute passed. Then 2. Another knock. Louder. And then the typing bubble appeared. Those 3 blinking dots. I stared at them, unable to move, my heart racing with every flicker of movement. The reply came. "You know who." I dropped the phone. It hit the floor face down and slid across the room. I didn't move to get it. I couldn't. All I could do was stare at the door as the silence stretched thin and something behind it waited for me to come closer. After that night, everything I thought I knew about reality started to unravel. I wasn't just scared anymore, I was terrified. Every sound in the house, every shadow on the wall felt like a warning. I stopped trusting my own senses. The line between what was real and what wasn't became a blurred mess in my mind. I found myself double-checking the locks on every door and window, even though I knew no one could get in without me noticing. The knocks, the messages, the visions, they weren't just haunting my home. They were haunting my mind. Sleep became impossible. I tried to close my eyes to shut it all out, but the image of her standing there, pale and silent, with that unnatural smile, was burned into my mind. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of knocking. Sometimes I'd see her out of the corner of my eye, just a flicker of movement like a shadow slipping past the doorway. When I turned to look, there was never anyone there. I reached out for help, but it only made things worse. I told a friend about the knocks, about the messages, about the figure on the camera footage. They told me I was grieving badly and needed help. Maybe they were right. But how do you explain a dead woman knocking on your door, texting you from beyond the grave? They looked at me like I was losing my mind, like I was a broken man chasing ghosts. And maybe I am. I started to question everything. My memories, my feelings, even my own existence. Was this all some kind of twisted dream? A punishment? A test? Or worse, was it real? Was she really there, standing on my porch every night, trying to get back in? What did she want from me? Forgiveness? Revenge? Or was it something I couldn't understand? I tried ignoring it. Tried locking myself away from the door, from the phone, from the world. But it didn't stop. The knocking continued, the messages came. And sometimes when the house was silent and still, I could swear I heard her voice, just a whisper, barely audible, calling my name. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. The line between life and death has blurred, and I'm caught somewhere in between. I'm waiting, every night, for her to knock again. For the next message, for whatever comes next, because I buried my wife last week, and now she's knocking on my door.